All right.
So your first fight when you debuted was on a massive card, Tank versus Pitbull. How did it feel fighting on such a big card for your first time?
It was great. It was Tank versus Leo Santa Cruz. Back in 2020. It was great. It was great debuting in front of a bunch of people over there in Texas. It was the first major sporting event back after COVID. So it was great seeing all the fans again. So it was
Mhm.
it was a pleasure fighting in that fight.
Yeah. Can you walk me through your last performance when you had that decision against Angel?
Angel, tough kid. Respect to him. He was just coming forward the whole time, very strong, little tough guy. I was just keeping on the outside, doing my thing. Got a little loose at the end, and just was taking over most of the fight. So I felt real great. Felt confident that fight. Most of my other fights, I was still getting adjusted to it. This time, I felt great and felt like more of myself, and I was able to perform great for the fans.
Yeah, for sure. It was a pretty great decision. You had a crazy, pretty viral knockout against Oscar Acevedo. Can you go back and could you remember that knockout punch? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, no, I think about it all the time. It was great how it went perfectly. I was practicing that the whole time in the gym because I see every time when he breaks, he would have his hands down or he kind of just get loose. And then during the fight, I also noticed that. So I was just keep on the outside, keeping my distance. Like every fighter does, check out the fighter, learn everything, just downloading information from him. And then when the second round came, I already had him figured out, already knew what I was gonna do. And as soon as we broke, I threw the 1-2, and that's what dazed him first off. And he sat down, so it was great. I noticed that he was a little loose still, so I just took over, went after him, and I caught him with a good right at the end.
Yeah, and you talked about you knew the punch that you were going to throw because you picked it up from him beforehand. Can you talk about the game planning for a certain opponent and how you like the process of the game planning for the opponent watching footage? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, of course. I don't like personally watching too much footage because I don't want to get stuff in my head and take away from how I normally fight as a fighter. So what I do is I just see their general style real quick. Only watch maybe like a 3 4 minute clip. See
Mhm.
their general style real quick, and just take my experience as a fighter and all the countless people I've sparred and fought with before in the amateurs, pros, or sparring, and I just figure out what I'm gonna do in those types of situations because everybody's human. We're all people. We're all strong. We're all have our different attributes. So I just like to see the general fighting style and base how I'm gonna fight off of that. But me personally, I know I'm not a one dimensional fighter. I know how to fight multiple different styles. So
Mhm.
I just like to adapt to whatever fighter. And like I said, first rounds I like to download information and see what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna attack their weaknesses.
Yeah. Can you go into some of your sparring sessions? What do you think was the hardest person you've sparred so far?
I've sparred a bunch of great champions. I've sparred Leo Santa Cruz, Jojo Diaz, Jamel Herring, and many more. Joey Gonzalez. I can't list them all now, but I've sparred against top competition, and I wouldn't be able to pick anyone that I would say would be my most difficult sparring because I've learned from every single one of them.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be able to pick anyone specific. But all I know is that all the sparring partners I've had, great competition and great people, and I've learned a lot from them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a great answer, but you've sparred a lot of people. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Your nickname is Too Quick. Who gave you that nickname?
my brother Leo Santa Cruz, man. When I was sparring him, where it was for his tank fight, that's when he picked me up and brought me a part of his team, and I'll be forever grateful for that. He's been the one that's developed my career from what it's been. So we're sparring one time, and I'm real fast. My hands are fast. I move real fast. I have real quick feet. And then after the sparring, he was like, "Man, you're too quick. That's gonna be your nickname." And that's just how it came.
Yeah.
It came from a legend, so I got to take that down.
Yeah, for sure. Can you describe your rigorous training? Can you describe what your training schedule is like?
um, there's a lot that goes into it, so I'll just like summarize it. So in the morning, I wake up around 6:30. I go run 7 miles, get my road work done, come back, shower up, get ready, get to the gym, train 3 4 hours. Uh, uh, a lot of mitts, bag work in the mornings, a lot of footwork, the fundamentals, and then when it depends if I'm fighting or not. If I have camp, and when camp, I come back in the afternoons and I work on more specific things like the like angles or other different categories I need to perform better in because I'm never perfect. No one's ever perfect. We always have to continue and learn and get better. So I just come back in the afternoons and I work on what I need to get better at. And then sometimes I have strength and conditioning depending on what days. So, it's pretty intense.
Mhm. You fought at some of the most well-known venues, including the Cosmopolitan, the Toyota Arena, Mandalay Bay. Which one of them did you like the best?
Wow, that's a hard one. Because also San Antonio was awesome, but I would say the best venue would be Mandalay Bay because of the history behind it
Mhm.
and just all yeah, everything. The history. It's such a nice venue. All the seats are great. So wherever you were to purchase your seat, you'd be able to see the ring perfectly. It's a decent size. So I would say Mandalay Bay would be my favorite.
Yeah, that's a good choice. You're a two-time national champion. Can you describe the journey of heading up to there?
So the amateurs was interesting for me. I started a little late. I was 14 years old. There's people that have been starting since they were like 6 8 years old competition. So I came a little behind. So the way I came up was my father. He pushed me real hard. All props to him. He's been the one there for me the whole time and guiding me throughout my journey. So in the beginning, I would spar people with way more fights than me because amateurs it was more like how many fights you have and how we would put the sparring. But me, I would have no experience and I'd spar national champions, people with 180 fights, so I can get experience. And then once I go to my shows, I feel confident that I've already sparred with the best, that I could beat someone that's only has 1 2 fights.
Yeah.
So I would say my amateur journey was interesting coming up. I had 5 fights. I went to the Junior Olympics. I was fighting people with 30, 40 fights. So it was intense. And then as I got later on, I felt more confident in myself. And we just decided to go for nationals. And then I came out victorious, ranked number one in the United States.
Nice. How would you mentally prepare yourself for a fight?
My role model is Kobe Bryant. He was a hard worker. He was a great guy. All respect to him and rest in peace. And there was this one time where I watched one of his videos that he would listen to the Halloween theme song on repeat in his earbuds while he was in the locker room preparing for his games.
Yeah.
So I just get myself in that mode. It's like he says, like an actor, you put yourself into a different mode. I put myself in that fight mode and just sit there and get ready and envision myself winning, envision myself throwing certain punches to take him out of his game or whatever. And that's just how I do. I just sit in the locker room and listen to that and just picture myself and how I'm going to attack.
So you would say like before the fight, you're sitting down and you're envisioning how you're going to do it?
Yeah, everything. Just when it comes to boxing, a lot of it's mental. A lot
Mhm.
of it. When it comes to training, you're tired, but honestly, you could keep going. It's just that you think you're tired. So a
Yeah.
lot of it's mental. So I feel like if I can picture myself coming out victorious, or if I could picture myself knocking them out, then that's how it goes.
Mhm.
Every time I picture myself knocking someone out, it's happening. Every time I picture myself winning, it's happening.
Uh, How would you say that you handled the pressures going into a fight?
My seventh amateur fight is once it completely stopped. But I used to be so nervous before a fight. When I in amateur, I was so nervous, like I would be like shaking and everything. But ever since the seventh fight is when my family would start coming, or I'd have a couple fans in the stands, and I could just hear them cheering for me. Then it just pumps me up, and I just feel motivated to just go out there and win for them. Because it's not just myself. I have a team behind me, and I have all my fans and my supporters, my sponsors, everybody. So I have to go out there and I have to win for them. So
Mhm.
whenever I hear them cheering for me in the crowds, it just pumps me up and makes me feel better. And so I don't
Yeah.
get nervous no more, and I just get motivated to go out there and fight and win.
Mhm. Would you say that you were the most nervous for your first fight? Or do you think like as you go on, you get more nervous or do you get less nervous?
In the pro fights, my first fight, I felt probably the most calm out of all of them because
Oh
I
wow.
had such a great
Mhm.
camp. I had such a great camp. I had such great sparring. Leo Santa Cruz was there helping me out the whole time. So, I felt so confident in that fight. So my first fight, I felt great. I had the majority of the fans in the stands. So I felt real comfortable. Um, I would say as I progress, I wouldn't get nervous or nothing, but I feel a little bit more anxious, I would say. But now, after since like my fourth, fifth fight, I feel calm again. So I feel completely fine now.
Mhm. What would you say your goals and aspirations are for the future of your boxing career?
I just want to become the best. I want to go down in the history books. I want to be a part of the greatest there is. I want to fight the best and give the fans the best show possible. Because there's a lot of fighters that duck a lot of fighters nowadays. I just want to go out there, fight everybody, and and just showcase my skills and bring entertainment to the people.
Yeah, 100%. You want to go down as one of the best. That's
Yes, of course.
yeah, best goal to ever have. But I want to ask you about the recovery process after the fight. You get a lot of punches to your head, a lot of punches to the body, and right after you still have the adrenaline incoming, so you don't really feel it. But when you start to come down, you start to feel the pain. So what's the recovery process like?
Normally I don't really get hit too much because I'm Cuban. My whole
You're too
upcoming was
quick.
hit and don't get hit. Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't get hit too much. This last fight, he was a wild guy. So he'd come in with a lot of headbutts. I had a little couple marks on my face. So I felt a little sore afterwards. So my recovery process was this time was just going home, relaxing, laying down, and icing up a little bit, I would say. But it wasn't too hard, too difficult. It was only 6 rounds. So it wasn't too bad. So I would just lay down and relax.
Mhm. Can you describe the level of discipline needed to succeed in boxing?
That's a whole nother level right there. They say boxing is one of the hardest sports, and I completely agree. You need to stay home. You need to be home by a certain time. You need to eat correctly. You need to train every single day doing the same thing, repetition after repetition. A lot of people get bored doing the exact same thing, and it's true, it happens. You get bored. You want to just stay home sometimes, but like you said, you need the discipline. You just keep going, going, going. So I would say, you need to be really strong mentally, real strong physically, and the discipline level is probably over every other sport there is.
Mhm. And what would you say to be your greatest strength as a boxer?
I wouldn't. I have a lot of great attributes. I'm not a one-dimensional fighter. There's a bunch of people that just do one thing. I don't do one thing, but I would say my best attribute would be between my speed and my footwork. I train my feet every day. I have naturally fast hands, but I would say probably what I train the most would be my footwork. So I would say my
Mhm.
footwork would be my best attribute.
And you would say that's what sets you apart from everybody else, especially in the training camps? Do you
Yeah, for
train?
sure.
Do you do anything different in training that typical boxers wouldn't do?
We all have our little unique tricks that we like to practice and different things that we like to take into consideration. But I wouldn't say I have anything crazy uh, that's different. But there's always those little things that we do different.
Mhm. You said you started the amateurs when you were 14 years old. If you were to go back right now and tell your 14-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just do what you do in sparring. Don't fight different. Don't listen to too many people. Just stick to listening to your dad and fighting your heart out. That's what I would say.
Yeah, perfect advice. And how often are you sparring?
I spar three times a week. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays when I spar. Sometimes I'll spar more depending on if someone calls me in and needs help or if I called someone in and they needed help. So it could be range from like 3 to 4 times a week.
Mhm. And have you ever been like flown out to help in somebody's camp?
I haven't been flown out, but I have um, driven probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours to go help
Yeah,
someone every day, every week for camps. Yes.
that's nice. All right. Well, thank you very much for the interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.
It was great.